Today I have a pretty interesting debate, and that is Godzilla vs. Cthulhu. Before I get into discussion, I'd like to thank the YouTuber Literally Who. His video that explains some of the Lovecraftian scaling definitely helped my research on this. So subscribe to him if you haven't, and I guess I'll get into the debate. First things first, what Godzillas will I actually be talking about here? Well, there's three. Marvel's Godzilla, Godzilla in Hell, and Heisei Godzilla. There are three of the most powerful Godzillas out there, and they're really the three I think would do the best against Cthulhu. And just so everyone knows, I'm using Cthulhu from strictly the original Lovecraft lore, not any fan-made stuff. So, starting off, we have to talk about how they would actually, how their powers would affect each other. For starters, Cthulhu has a pretty glaring weakness that Godzilla can relatively easily exploit. Like all other gods, and yes, they're called Other Gods. Outer Gods is some shit that's from a game that happened way after the books that Cthulhu is originally from were written. So it's not actually canon to the original lore. For anybody who calls them Outer Gods, that's not the correct term. It's either Other Gods or Ultimate Gods are the only two terms that are really ever used. But, Godzilla can exploit Cthulhu's weakness to light. All other gods are weak to light. That's regularly talked about. I mean, the being that essentially keeps them in the void is essentially light. Well, and other stuff, but it's mainly light is what they're described as. So Cthulhu's big weakness is light, and Godzilla's radiation is essentially light. Like, really destructive, radioactive light. So atomic breath is going to hurt Cthulhu. Anybody thinks Cthulhu couldn't be hurt by atomic breath, he's getting damaged really, really badly by it. However, how do these two actually scale to each other? Well, first of all, both are arguably higher dimensional. Well, Cthulhu's not really arguably, he is higher dimensional. Godzilla, you could argue he's not higher dimensional. If you do, you probably need to look at the scaling, because he is definitely higher dimensional. Now, the big argument I see for how he's not higher dimensional is humans can't really perceive higher dimensional objects. That's stupid. That's like the dumbest fucking thing I've heard in my entire life. People can see Cthulhu's physical form. Yeah, they go insane sometimes, but normal people can look at it in the books and be fine. And I don't see anybody ever saying he's not fucking higher dimensional. People see Galactus and Marvel, we know he's higher dimensional, and they don't literally lose their minds. Even Unicron from Transformers is arguably higher dimensional, and there are people who can look at him and not go insane. So, saying that Godzilla's not higher dimensional because people's brains don't quite literally explode in their heads is just a stupid-ass argument that shouldn't exist. Especially when Godzilla's been higher dimensional, pretty much confirmed since the Showa era, and Heisei Godzilla is very obviously above that, as is Godzilla in Hell, and most likely Marvel's Godzilla. But on to how these two actually scale. Well, Cthulhu automatically upscales everything before the void in cosmology. Lovecraftian cosmology is really, really weird. You have the physical universe, which is infinite in size and absurdly old, and then you have the dreamlands or dream realms or whatever they're called, which is even bigger, infinite size, plus it has infinite dimensions, which is kind of cheating in power scaling, but whatever. And then you have stuff beyond that, all the way up to the void, which just continuously gets infinitely bigger and bigger and bigger as you go up. The void is where Cthulhu's usually at. However, you can't really go into the physical realm where Godzilla is most likely going to be at. I don't think he's going to be chilling in the void when he doesn't even know the void's a thing. But in order to go into the physical realm, he essentially has to use a physical form. It also requires a lot of blood sacrifices and other weird shit. But when he appears in the physical realm, he's going to essentially resurrect a bunch of squid people, which some people have referred to as Cthulhians. That's what I'm going to call them now, as I was originally just going to call them Squidward people, but, that sounds kind of stupid. Essentially, these squid people are all pretty fucking powerful, but Cthulhu is obviously the big dog here. Also, I've heard some people call him a Great Old One. That's referring to the Cthulhians, not Cthulhu. So calling him a Great Old One is essentially calling him weaker than he already is. I mean, yeah, it sounds cool, but that's like calling God a priest. And actually, Cthulhu is a priest. Kinda weird. It's weird. Anyways, physical realm Cthulhu versus Marvel's Godzilla is a pretty solid stomp for Godzilla. Cthulhu in the physical realm's weak. He's not at his absolute peak. He is huge, he's taller than a mountain. He's several miles tall. But Marvel's Godzilla can match Thor in strength briefly, so Yeah, he's chucking physical realm Cthulhu like into the sun. Godzilla and Hell Godzilla's even stronger, so that's like a one shot. And Heisei Godzilla's arguably even above that. So Cthulhu in the physical realm's getting murdered. So after one of these versions of Godzilla just absolutely obliterates Cthulhu and his whole little squid person army, Cthulhu's probably going to be a little pissed inside the void. So he's going to be spamming crazy shit, curses, energy, all sorts of weird eldritch abilities at Godzilla from the void. This is where Marvel Godzilla probably dies. I don't think he could really defend against it, and he's probably just not... He just can't scale high enough to even survive it. Godzilla in Hell is just going to get pissed, and eventually he's going to find a way to get to the void one way or another, probably just by blowing shit up until he gets there. And by that, I mean literally just blasting his way through dimension after dimension. However, in the void, although he could hurt Cthulhu, I don't think he's actually pulling off a win against Cthulhu, especially if they're fighting in the void and there's other creatures from the void or other gods there. Especially if there's some of the gods that are like literally infinitely above Cthulhu there, they might just kill Godzilla for annoying them. And also, shooting light at them, the one weakness they have might just piss them off. Then we have Heisei Godzilla. And this really depends on one big thing, if he's in burning form or not. If he's not in burning form, he does worse than Godzilla in Hell. And he probably dies instantly. If he's in burning form, this is where this becomes a really, really confusing debate. Because the power scaling for these two just goes off the charts into, insanity. Burning Godzilla automatically is 5D just because he's stronger than the 4D Space Godzilla to an infinite degree, and it's basically been confirmed this in base before he's Burning Godzilla. In Burning Godzilla, he's fighting Destroya. So you need to know about Destroya is when he's in his perfect form, the form he's fighting Burning Godzilla in. And this is base perfect form, by the way. He gets stronger. He's 500 times stronger than Godzilla Jr. Godzilla Jr. fought Argent Destroya. Argent Destroya is 500 times stronger than... he's become... Perfect Destroya is 500 times stronger than Argent Destroya. This is confirmed in guides and statements and a bunch of other shit. Anyway, Destroya is really strong, and Burning Godzilla is only slightly weaker before he uses a little thing called the Infinite Heat Ray. You see, the Infinite Heat Ray adds an infinite multiplier. That'd be like if Goku just screamed Kaioken times infinity. I think you could imagine how big the power boost there is. It's an infinite multiplier. Depending on how you interpret this either ups him by one dimension or by infinite dimensions. It doesn't really matter though, as he's shooting light. And he's shooting really powerful light that could obliterate an entire multiverse. And I don't think that's really debatable. If he's infinitely times stronger than a 5D being, he could obliterate a multiverse. That's a low ball. So, although Cthulhu might still have a little bit of a power advantage, Godzilla's powering up, and his way of powering up involves shooting his, essentially Cthulhu's kryptonite right at Cthulhu's face at incomprehensible speeds. So the only way Cthulhu wins is if he starts using a bunch of reality warping crazy shit on Godzilla. But as Godzilla's already really shrugged some of that off, and again, he's also powering up by essentially shooting beams at your face, this really just comes down to a who's faster. And unfortunately for Cthulhu, as absolutely insane as it sounds, Godzilla has better speed feats. The only way you can really get Cthulhu to the speed level that Godzilla's on is by scaling with other beings. But that's honestly unfair to Godzilla, as Godzilla has feats on his own that upscale some of those beings to an ungodly level. For instance, he dodges infinite speed crystals, and we know for a fact his speed increases with his power. So the infinite heat ray might honestly be making his infinite speed infinitely faster. Which sounds insane, but that's kind of how it's implied to work. And when I say infinite speed, I don't mean Godzilla's running at infinite speeds. I mean he's fighting at infinite speeds. He still walks relatively slow, unless it's Godzilla in Hell, who we know can walk at infinite speeds, because I guess that makes sense in comics. But Heisei Godzilla is no joke when it comes to fight speed, and combat speed, and reaction speed. And Cthulhu, it'd be like if Superman's fighting a guy that's weaker than him, but shoots kryptonite lasers faster, and he can even react, and those lasers get infinitely stronger with every attack. So unless Cthulhu pulls some major crazy shit on Godzilla, who can also regenerate from being cut in half in literally a millisecond, according to some of the stuff from the guides, and Destroy essentially cuts him in half with his horn repeatedly, and he's just haha, nice try. So, although I don't think Cthulhu has no shot at beating Heisei Godzilla, Heisei Godzilla's more likely than not one-shotting Cthulhu with an infinite heat ray once he gets into the void. Now, if Burning Godzilla can never get into the void, that's where another really, really broken ability he has comes into play that would ultimately, most likely, lead to a draw. And that involves a meltdown. If Burning Godzilla knows he's screwed and the humanity in this universe can't just freeze him, he's just going to keep spamming infinite heat rays to take Cthulhu out with him. Let's face it, Godzilla's not exactly a fan of letting a guy he just beat the shit out of that's now spamming shit at him keep living. So he's going to spam infinite heat rays to amp his own meltdown, and once that happens, he's going to take out the void and everything else with him. And yeah, that I am implying he would wipe out the entire verse, the entire Lovecraft verse with a meltdown. The only being that would likely survive is the embodiment of the Lovecraft verse, which I can't remember the name of right now, but it's the being that's above all the other gods. Essentially the being that keeps them out of the other parts of the verse. So, ultimately, I think Heisei Godzilla wins. All other Godzillas get smoked relatively quickly, especially if it's true form Cthulhu. But Heisei Godzilla most likely can pull off a win if he plays his cards right and Cthulhu doesn't just spam reality warping crazy shit. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. This scaling literally made my brain almost explode from just the levels of stupidity within both of them. I mean, it just gets so unbelievably insane in both verses. Like, honestly, I've been underestimating Cthulhu for a while. I did not know he was that fucking powerful. Jesus. But, guess I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.